Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Bahasham, Barakahak Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure into the end. This is the Brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off with an article from NewRepublic.com titled, Trump's First Executive Order May Be a Military Purge. The order could place the military under the president's total command like never before. And hey, ever since, Trump won the selections, he's been adding people to his cabinet and talking about what he's about to do once he gets into office. And hey, it's looking like he's going to shake things up on all levels and just create that much more, division and, chaos out here, fulfilling biblical prophecy. Because as we're about to read in this article, Trump is looking to weed out, generals that aren't on that Make America Great Again kick, or he considers to be too woke. And, a lot of these people in the military are company people, for lack of a better term, that have their own interests outside of the interests of America. So with Trump putting them under the heat, what's that going to do? Cause that division amongst these Edomites. And what does it say in Mark chapter 3, verses 24 to 25? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And as we can clearly see, especially from the results of these elections, America is divided like never before on damn near every level amongst the common people. So with Trump talking about issuing executive orders to weed out generals who aren't to his liking, hey, that's going to cause internal divisions on the leadership level. Verse 25, and if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. The house or the race of these Edomites, which again, especially with these American Edomites, they're divided on, anything you can think about, from race to religion to politics, etc., etc. And this article was published on November 12th of 2024, the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. Trump's transition team has a warrior board executive order ready for the president-select's desk. An executive order draft is floating around MAGA world that would establish a Trump-appointed warrior board with the power to purge any 3- or 4-star generals as it sees fit. The board would send its dismissal recommendations to Trump, and they would be acted upon within 30 days. Hey, again, Trump's not playing around even before he gets into office. The draft executive order, which was first reported on by the Wall Street Journal, makes it easy to quickly remove military officials lacking in requisite leadership qualities, but leaves open the question of what those requisite qualities are. The executive order draws on General George C. Marshall's 1940 creation of a plucking board led by retired general officers to remove from line promotion any officer for reasons deemed good and sufficient. But that plucking board was to uplift young officers with high potential, not to cull anyone not perfectly aligned with MAGA. It's not yet clear if Trump will sign the executive order, but Trump has held vitriol, animosity toward certain military leaders for some time now. And, Trump has made it, vocal that during his first term with his picks, he didn't know what he was doing. And a lot of people in there didn't have America's interests first in his eyes. So if he goes through with this executive order, he can shift around anything he wants and get people in that are more in line with his dictates, which, like I said, a lot of these generals and people in the government are company men. They get their marching orders from their donors and corporate interests, which don't align with Make America Great Again. So that's going to create that division, that animosity. He has vowed to weaponize them against Slovakia. Yeah, he has vowed to weaponize them against the enemy within, to fire anyone involved in the 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, and to create a task force to weed out woke generals. And where it said he has vowed to weaponize them against the enemy within, that comes from probably about a month or so ago, before the selections, when Trump was saying that, we have an enemy within the United States, and I may have to get the National Guard or even the Army involved on the streets of America to get things back in order. Now I'm going to go to Isaiah chapter 19. I'm going to start at verse 2 and then jump down to verse 4. And the header reads, "A message to Egypt." And this isn't talking about ancient Egypt or Mizraim. This is talking about the modern day spiritual Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation chapter 11, verse 8, the United States of America. "And I will set the Egyptians, the Americans, against the Americans, especially these Edomite Americans, and they shall fight, everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom." What does that sound like? Civil unrest, which, you got a lot of people already in an uproar about, the selection results. And with Donald Trump talking about the possibility of passing executive orders to fire generals and pick whom he pleases, that's just going to cause that division within this kingdom. And as it says in verse 2, it's going to get violent. With the times we're coming into, nothing is left off the table. There will be violence in the streets of the United States of America between these Edomites, from the low level all the way up until the top level. And we've still got until the inauguration in January 20th for something to happen that would keep Trump from getting in office. And that would just further exacerbate the civil unrest in this country. They had a movie that came out this year called War Games, which it had people in the government doing a simulation on how to deal with civil unrest due to a controversy over the presidential elections, and the date that they were dealing with in that movie was on January 6th. And you had some Edomite, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, that was saying they were looking to enact, I believe it's the 14th Amendment, which deals with, a president not being allowed to be inaugurated if he was involved in a seditious action, relate to January 6th, to put that on the table to try to keep Trump from getting into office. So again, nothing is being left off the table, but rest assured that major shakeups are coming, as well as civil unrest and division to the United States of America. And Trump's looking like the man to kick everything off. I'm going to jump down to verse 4. "And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord, Yahweh of hosts." And Trump's looking like the man to fit that bill of being that cruel Lord and that fierce king set up over Egypt, America, talking about getting rid of generals that don't align with his interests, and fighting that enemy within, American citizens. This looks like an administration getting ready to purge anyone who will not be a yes man. Former Army lawyer Eric Carpenter told the Wall Street Journal, "If you are looking to fire officers who might say no because of the law or their ethics, you set up a system with completely arbitrary standards so you can fire anyone you want. Hey, say Trump wants to mobilize the military on the populace for whatever reason. Generals or anybody else in the military that doesn't want to go along, they're going to get the axe. The draft may be ready to see President-elect Trump's desk on day one. So that's it with this article. But now I'm going to go to my second bit of information on businessinsider.com to show that, hey, it's not just Trump, but the people in his board that are, coming in that fierce, old Edomite authoritarian spirit, which, is not just going to cause divisions within America, but it's going to cause divisions between America and her own allies, which is also a part of biblical prophecy. But this is on businessinsider.com. J.D. Vance, President Trump's vice president, suggested the U.S.'s support for NATO could be pulled if Europe tries to regulate Elon Musk, who, Trump just tapped for a new department, the Department of Government Expenditures, DOGE, X as free speech debate rumbles on. And this was published on September 21st of 2024. So it's a couple of months old. But now that Trump is the president-elect, it's becoming, prevalent, more prevalent again. J.D. Vance suggested that the U.S. may reconsider its support for NATO if the European Union pursued regulations targeting social media platforms, particularly Elon Musk's X. Vance made the remarks during a recent appearance on the Sean Ryan Show, where he expressed concerns about a perceived threat to free speech. Slovakia. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate in, it says the upcoming presidential selections, which have already happened, claimed on the show that an EU official had threatened to arrest Musk if he platformed Trump. The leader, I forget exactly which official it was within the European Union, but sent Elon this threatening letter that basically said, we're going to arrest you if you platform Donald Trump. Vance said, what America should be saying is, if NATO wants us to continue supporting them, and NATO wants us to continue to be a good participant in this military alliance, why don't you respect American values and respect free speech? He continued, adding that it was insane that we would support a military alliance if that military alliance isn't going to be pro-free speech. So on the one hand, you have J.D. Vance saying, look, hey, we can pull support from NATO if they don't want to, support, so-called free speech and deplatform our man Elon Musk's, X. They want to penalize it for putting Donald Trump on there. And then on the other hand, you have Trump saying, look, generals that don't want to go along with my dictates, hey, get them out of there so we can get people that are going to do exactly what I want them to do. Back in that Mark 3 and verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. Divisions within America and divisions between America and her own allies. Which brings me to Daniel chapter 7. I'm going to start at verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others. And that's talking about those legs of iron in Daniel chapter 2. The ancient pagan Roman Empire, which the Edomites also ruled, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And what made Rome diverse from these other kingdoms was what? That it had a Senate house and, elected senators and two political parties, the patricians and the plebeians. What does that sound like? The United States of America, with elected officials, the Senate, and the Republicans and the Democrats. Verse 20, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell. And now we're going into those iron toes mixed with miry clay, that last leg of the fourth beast, the reincarnated Roman Empire, this NATO EU system that the US is a part of and at the head of, and is that little horn, that little head that came up, before whom 3 fell. And that 3 is talking about the major players in the New World before the 13 colonies became America proper, which was the British, the French, and the Spanish. Even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. And when we go to that word stout in the Strongs, it's H7229, Rab. And in the outline of biblical usage, it says great, great, figurative of power, captain, chief, which, like I just said, America is at the head of, these iron toes mixed with miry clay, this NATO EU system. And whatever America says, her European allies, follow right behind it. And it's always America's European allies that feel the blowback from America's military and economic adventurism abroad. Who's dealing with the ramifications from the war in Ukraine and Russia cutting off sending natural resources? Europe. Who felt the refugee crises from the Afghanistan war, the Libyan civil war, and the Syrian civil war? Europe. And now you've got J.D. Vance further threatening to pull support from NATO if they, don't want to go along with America. And, Trump, during his first presidency and even recently, expressed, his doubts towards NATO and penalizing them for not wanting to pull their weight, which I'm going to jump down to some of these last paragraphs to show that point, which, where's it at? You son of a bitch. Of course you would do this now, wouldn't you? Let's see if I can kind of get down there quick enough. All right. Here it is. Trump has long urged, the U.S.-NATO relationship has been back under the spotlight in the run-up to the U.S. selections in November. Trump has long urged fellow NATO members to increase their defense spending. In February, the former president even suggested that he would encourage Russia to attack non-paying NATO countries, much to the White House's ire. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What I wanted to get, just showing that, Trump during his first presidency and, recently has, been getting on NATO for not pulling their fair share of the alliance. Again, that little horn whose look was more stout than his fellow. So as we can clearly see, many more divisions are just going to come to this kingdom of Esau Edoms in the last days. And as it said, if a kingdom be divided, that kingdom shall not stand and fall, which is exactly what's going to happen. And we're coming into the times where America's own European allies are going to turn against her. Let me X some of these out. Now I'm going to go to Obadiah chapter 1. I'm going to start at verse 1 and jump down to verse 7. And this whole book is dedicated to you Edomites, or so-called white people. As the header reads, Edom will be humbled. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Now I'm going to jump down to verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy, or your allies, have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. While the U.S. has bullied Europe into putting sanctions and, sending military support to Ukraine over Russia, behind the scenes, they're still, through back channels, getting a certain amount of natural resources from, Russia. And also, you've had some European Union countries express interests in the BRICS. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. At some point during this upcoming Third World War, America's allies are going to turn against her and ally themselves with Russia and America's other enemies. They that eat thy bread, getting all this, American money to upkeep the alliance and other things that America does for Europe, have laid a wound under thee, getting all that stuff just to turn against the U.S. in the final hour. There is none understanding in him. And what all this division is ultimately going to culminate into is America's allies who have, allied themselves with America's enemies. They're all together going to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the United States of America, turning it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. Close it out in Revelation 17, verse 16. And the 10 horns, which is speaking of the EU, the European Union, beginning with the first 10 common markets of it, back when it was known as the European Economic Community, which thou sawest upon the beast, NATO, these shall hate the whore, mystery Babylon, Babylon the Great, America, that's riding upon that whore, that's riding upon that beast, whose look was more stout than her fellows, who's great in power, the chief, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, fire from those nuclear missiles. And as we saw in those two articles, Trump and his team are looking to be those people that are going to stir up everything within America, and especially between America and her allies, to help in fast tracking these last few prophecies. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere, Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.